Let me welcome Jim and Pat. I will let you tell us more about yourselves because as an interculturalist, I'm very sensitive of the problem of speaking for others. So please tell us
Oh, no.
what we need to know. And my dear students, please, at least for a second, show your lovely faces because it's a little bit more dialogical when we can see you. If you can, at least for a second, okay? So say hi, and then for Q&A, say hi virtually again, okay?
Sure.
Nice. This class is called Communicating Globally, so we cover a lot of global issues. We have difficult dialogues around the world and we get inspired, but we see that communication is central everywhere, so we are excited to have you on board. And on that lovely note, the floor is yours.
Sure. Well, Pat, do you want to start and go, or how would you like
go
to do
ahead,
this?
Jim. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, hi, everybody. And thank you so much I'm honored to be kind of invited to do this and to chat with you and kind of share my experience that I had at CSU. I think there were some very key things that happened for me there. So you are confident that you will, do well in the industry. I've been in the industry about 35 years now, I think. Pat brought up, I graduated in 1984. So whatever that is, I guess it's almost 40, I hate to admit. But I got some really good things from there. Currently, so I'll kind of work back from there. I own my own production company at the moment, have had that for about 30 years. That came all to be after I spent some time as an executive producer at ABC Entertainment and Television Network out in Los Angeles. I created a number of brands for them, one of which you're probably far too young to know, but it was called TGIF, which was a big Friday night brand in the 90s and 80s, with Full House and those shows. Those were all under my umbrella. I got started, I basically worked my way up in the industry, and I can't say how important that is to kind of get your hands dirty and get in there, and you do everything to get that experience. Today I just completed 3 movies with friends that you'll start to see on Hallmark probably in the next year. But before that, I'd been in sports television. I've run a small network for Comcast and Xfinity, and then obviously done comedy programming and branding from everything from Hallmark to ABC to Disney, just a lot of stuff. It's been a fun ride. So kind of to discuss how I got there, I guess, is what I would like to share with you. And I think this was of value to me. When I was at CSU, and I'm sure you have fantastic professors there. I remember the stress that I was going through, thinking, how am I going to get a job? I'm not going to USC Film School. I'm not going to all these major NYUs and things. And some of the neat things I had happen, there are some great professors there, and I know that continues by the professors I've met there that are there with you today. But B, what I would say is a school is not what sets you apart from that in our business. It's important that you have your degree. That's something that people kind of watch for and will ask you in the process, hey, where'd you go to school? But CSU is not something that you to be shy about or anything like that. You will run into a lot of people from USC and major schools, but I guess what I would say to you is you're in the pool with them, and that's the thing to be proud of. What happened for me is there was a professor there called by the name of Denny Phillips. I think he's still in the area. And he and a number of my cohorts, when we were taking some of his classes, encouraged us to start reaching out right away. I think it was sophomore, junior year. And we started looking for little projects or gigs we could do with local television. There was a local cable company there, and Denny happened to be one of the announcers for the local sports when he would cover that. And we would go pull cables for him. There was no pay, nothing like that, but we, got that initial experience in there. And then eventually he encouraged us to start calling on, and this still is possible for you, start calling the unit production manager and finding out who that unit production manager is when sports units come into Colorado. So this could be for golf, this could be for football, for the new USFL, for baseball, all of those things, they bring trucks in. And these digital trucks are things that they need runners for. And when I did it, we got paid $25 a day, and we had to go get donuts and coffee and do just about anything else for, you know, the crews that needed it. But the invaluable experience that I got there was I literally got to sit in the live trucks and be there on call when, you know, a major production was going down, like NFL Monday Night Football. So there I was sitting with people like Chet Forty and, you know, and all these major directors and kingpins in the industry, and watching live sports go down. And that's a roller coaster ride in itself. By my senior year, I would start to go on the road, still getting paid $25 a day, but I would buy my own plane ticket and I would go to golf matches and be their PA. And the point being, I was getting in the room with these people. And what happens is when you become that trusted person that's always there to serve and help and yes, sir, whatever you need kind of thing, there is always a crisis in our industry, live sports and always, and they will turn to someone they know and trust the moment they need it. And that's exactly what happened to me. And that's what Denny predicted would happen is, you know, I was at a golf game and they had a problem. And one of the directors turned to me and went, Jim, go do this, go do this. And all of a sudden I was elevated to the next level and the next level. And the next thing on the road, I was put into another position and another position. So I worked my way up. After that, I did a little bit of time where I actually got paid some money at at Channel 9 in Denver when it was first KBTV and then became KUSA. And I got into the on-air promotion and marketing department because they needed someone to help with cutting promos. And I love the advertising side of stuff in television. So I started doing that and I built a reel or a demo of my work, which is very important if you want to be behind the scenes and do that as you start to build examples of your work or a portfolio. With that, I finally started to go out to Los Angeles, believing I was going to get a job immediately. That didn't happen. I quit a job at Channel 9 and went out there and struggled for a good 4 to 5 months with nothing and was, you know, scared out of my wits. But once again, Denny Phillips kind of came back into my mind, and that was he would come into class often and point at us out of random and say, who did you call today for your career? And it would scare the heck out of us. But I got to tell you, that was teaching us networking. And he always would emphasize call at least 2 to 3 people a day, if you can, or a week, set a schedule for yourself. And then on that you're going to talk to them, ask them for advice. Don't ask them for a job. Because when you call asking for a job, that's a threat and a wall immediately, because usually they don't have an immediate job waiting for you. And there's a whole process that goes through that. But they do have connections, and you can tell them, hey, you know, I love this part of the business. This is what I want to do. This is my passion. And it's kind of important to focus as you get in. Do you want to, you know, do you want to be a PA? Don't go for being a director. Those all take a lot of time. You know, I want to be a PA. I want to do this. How do I get in there? Ask them. Chances are they will know somebody, and it's that 6 degrees of separation. So if you keep calling, you know, it will lead to one person. And sure enough, same thing happened to me at ABC. I called the right guy at the right time. And he said, hey, wait a minute. I just remembered this guy over at ABC lost one of his writer producers over an on-air promo. I called him. I went and met with him. I showed him my reel. He loved the fact that I was had been from local television, because a lot of the network people don't know what the local affiliates are thinking and how they work. So we brought that to them, and I had a job. And so went from there to there to there. And then TGIF happened a couple of years down the road and started hitting more big time stuff. And it just, the career took off. And I will say the same to you. I think my technical journalism teacher there, I want to say it was Fred Shook. Is that right? I don't remember his name exactly, but I think
name, yeah.
Is it? Yeah, Fred Shook. I think, Pat, I don't know if you ever took his class. He had a technical journalism class, but I remember freaking out and being like, I'm not going to get a job. This is not going to work for me. And he sat me down one day, and I would say this to you too. I promise you, if you work really hard at calling people, networking, doing whatever's asked of you, that's, morally whatever asked of you, but working hard, not over jumping too much, because they really do watch for kids that work their way up. You will get a job, and within 3 years, you'll be somewhere significant. And he told me that, and I would tell you right now, the marketplace is really ripe. When we left and went into the marketplace, there were 4 networks and a couple hundred TV stations, and that was our choices. Now you have all these streaming giants and people like that out there looking for young talent. So go for it is what I would say, because you will succeed, and you're in the right place to get this. And then lastly, kind of to follow up on the communication in our world right now is really, really obviously important. We are probably more divided than I've ever seen as far as the world, the country. And I happen to know of a couple projects that are in play right now with the different governors across the country called Unify America, where they actually put two opposing people in the same teleconference and have them kind of not shout it out, but share their views. And you end up finding out that we're all really a lot closer than you think. And we've kind of been divided by the media. So I think it's important to understand that you have at your fingertips a great responsibility to make sure that the communication that you share with the world in your creative is honest from your heart and deceiving and not deceiving. We had a law in place back when we went that was kind of didn't allow you to go say anything you wanted at the time. And you could be liable. And now that has kind of passed away, and people are saying anything they want out there. And it really isn't, it's real important to be honest, double check your facts when you're putting some media out there, whether it's on Facebook or anything, because that's really what will bring us together. And realizing that we really are all around the world, 99% very much the same. So that's all I have to say. I'm happy to answer questions and hope I didn't take too much time.
We doing questions now, or how do you want to do this, Julia?
I think you should go before you do questions.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Just so we don't.
Yeah, I wanted to suggest that both of you speak, and then we have questions, because
Great.
questions for both of you.
Sure. Well, Jim, that was great, and that to me is the path not taken, right? So we both came out of the communication broadcasting world at CSU, and you mentioned Denny Phillips, huge influence on me as well, as well as Dr. Mack and
Yep.
Ann Gill. Just all, Ann Gill is still one of my favorite people, and was one of my favorite professors at CSU. And when I was getting ready to graduate, also in 1984, Jim and I were in the same class. I had a couple of different job offers in the media world at a TV station and then also at a radio station. And I decided to take a different path and went into, believe it or not, the property casualty insurance world. So Jim took the sexy path, the media world.
I don't know if it's sexy.
I took kind of a different path. I went into business, and I've thought about that decision for years, and I wouldn't change a thing. I've had an amazing career over the last 37 years. And I've traveled the world. You mentioned, Julia, you mentioned the communication across cultural lines, and that I've experienced that firsthand. I've run global businesses since 2001. And whether it's in Asia, whether it's in South America, whether it's in Europe, if you learn how to communicate and you use your critical thinking skills, you get points across and you can conduct business together. And it opens up an entire world. So, I was in preparation for this, I was trying to jot down some of the things that I took away from CSU and just really felt helped me throughout my career. And what people don't understand about the insurance business is we call it the grease of commerce, meaning every business out there, whether it's Janicek Media or whether it's ABC Television, has to have insurance. So I have been involved in all different industry groups, everything from jewelry stores to major corporations to construction to what I'm doing now is technology in the supply chain world. And having those critical thinking skills, having that ability to think on your feet allows you to go from one thing to another seamlessly and be able to adapt. So that adaptability I've found has been huge. Being able to make quick decisions. I remember a class with Dr. Gill where the final was you walked into her classroom, she handed you a piece of paper, it had a topic on it, and you had to get up and give a 15-minute speech on that topic with no preparation, with literally zero prep. And she was a hard grader. She graded you on the structure of the speech, the content of the speech. And to me, that was one of my favorite classes. I loved that class. It just spoke to me. And I can't tell you how many times I've been either sitting in front of a board or sitting in front of a client, and they throw a question at you out of left field that nobody in the room prepped for. And you have to be able to think on your feet and give them a competent answer, even if that ends up with you going, I'm going to get back to you with more detail, but this is how it goes. Learning, being put on those, on the spot when you're 22 and learning how to do that is an invaluable skill. The writing skills that you folks have gone through, I checked out some of the requirements that you're, in the communication studies degree, the composition classes that you've taken, take those, I hope you took those seriously, because you'd be amazed at how many people in the business world really don't write well. And I've fielded, I've been lucky enough to be in positions where I've been a decision maker and proposals come to my desk and I'll read it and go, I have no idea what you're proposing. I just read a 10-page proposal and I can't tell you what you're proposing. And that is a huge skill, to be able to get your thoughts across in a concise manner, and a manner that someone can actually read it and go, okay, that makes sense. That's logical. That is something I can sink my teeth into. I can ask questions about because I understand what you're trying to convey to me. Those type of skills, you cannot put a price, whether you go into media, whether you go into general business, those type of skills are invaluable. Storytelling. You would think that storytelling, obviously that's a big part of Jim's world. But when you get into the general business world, which, I say Jim's world, I mean, he is in the general business world. It just happens to be focused on the media space, right? But you could be in an accounting, you could be an accountant. And if you can't tell a story and convey what you're trying to, a message, you're going to struggle. You're not going to be as successful as you might be. So having that speech communication, that communication knowledge and ability to convey your message and tell a story is huge. We call it death by PowerPoint in the business world. People get up and they have these PowerPoint presentations that are basically just regurgitating facts and they read off of it. It doesn't tell a story. One of the key things about giving a presentation, whether it's to a client, whether it's to a board of directors, whether it's to your current boss, is being able to tell a story. And that's that convey a message, right? And that is something that I took away from CSU, is that ability to tell a story. let's see, the logic analysis. I've spent my career as an underwriter, which is basically in the insurance world is analyzing risk and deciding whether or not to put my corporate assets on the line based on that analysis that I did. Now, I wasn't a business major. I wasn't a finance major. I'm surrounded by finance people in this business, in the insurance business, yet I've managed to succeed because of that analysis, that logical thinking that I'm able to apply to problems. And I learned that at CSU. The use of language, rhetoric. Again, it's part of that theme that I'm kind of weaving here about telling a story. I don't care what industry group you're in, whether if you become a fine artist, right? You're conveying a message in your art. And whether or not that's on a canvas, or whether that's in the written word, whether that's in the spoken word, it's telling a story. So I guess, in summary, what I'd tell you is just that the communication degree I received at CSU gave me the foundation that really the only thing that could have ever held me back was myself. I had all the basic skills, the foundation from which to build a business career on, and I took it and ran with it. And I've kept in contact with Dr. Gill over the years, and she's always given me good advice when I needed it. And having met Greg and the team there, it's been a great relationship with CSU. I encourage you guys to, the media space is not for everybody. What my message is don't limit yourself, because if you're interested in something and you think, oh gosh, I've got a communication degree, I don't have a business degree, it doesn't matter. You've got the degree, you've got the skills. You can do anything you want. I mean, it's true. And I'm proof here. I mean, I semi-retired about 2 years ago after a 35-year career in the insurance business. And I ended it as a senior executive for one of the largest insurance companies in the world, and stepped aside. And now I work for a tech company as their chief risk officer, and I'm helping them put together what's called InsurTech programs, which is matching technology in the supply chain world with insurance products and trying to help clients get better insurance pricing, better insurance coverage because of their use of technology. And so I'm working with a bunch of young, crazy tech people out of Austin, Texas, and having a blast. It's a ton of fun. And so the world is your oyster, folks. Grab it and run. That's my story.
Thank you very much. Fascinating stories. I have so many questions, but I always do. I will not ask them before I give this chance to our students, because I'm sure they are now also ready to learn more. When you ask a question, please make sure to unmute your microphone, and ideally turn on your camera so we can also see you.
Don't be shy, folks.
I did have a question for Mr. Stoik as well as a comment. First, I just want to say thank you for kind of what you said. I think a lot of these skills you talked about and the importance of them are things that we are learning right now. And they also come with doubt. Like you said, just the ability to have tell a story and communicate well, just as we'd hope we'd come out of with this major. I think is something we're fearful of because it's so general. And I think your comments really helped fix what we fear about being in comms majors, that there are these options. And the question I had was that, do you think if we do hone these skills, like you said, to think critically, tell a story, and think on the spot, do you think that things will fall in place after that? Because that's kind of where I'm at in life, where I feel like I'm getting confident in these skills. And if I keep owning them, do you think things will present themselves, like opportunities, jobs, careers, things like that?
Absolutely. And, I'll echo something Jim said, which is nothing replaces hard work and networking. Okay. So I don't care whether you're in the media space, whether you're in insurance, whether you're in, any other, name your industry in the business world. You got to work hard. My brother has a philosophy that's work hard or life's hard. Nothing can replace it. So you got to work hard. Don't be afraid of reaching out to people. I mean, you now have two contacts in business. You've got Jim, you've got myself. There's nothing to stop you from, LinkedIn with us, reaching out saying, hey, I need advice. What I'm interviewing with this company, any advice, those kind of things. Because the fact that we're here speaking to you guys shows you that we're interested. We want to help. I mean, I'm not doing this because I get like extra credit for it. I'm doing it because I care. I care about CSU. I care about the students at CSU, and I'll do anything I can to help you guys succeed.
To echo that too for you, Keaton, I can tell you just by hearing you speak that you've got some great skills. And, I think to talk about, what Ann Gill taught us all was, nothing beats that in-person communication. So a lot of people, myself included, I'm very guilty of this. I text, I email because it's way too easy. And unfortunately, a lot of communication skills get lost, things that we've been taught to master that other people haven't really been taught. And that is the eye-to-eye contact, the smile, the idea of telling a story that is very personal when you open a conversation immediately breaks down the walls that someone puts up. So when they meet you, so the second you create a relatable conversational topic, I was at the store today and I spilled coffee all over myself, or you say a little joke or something to get that open thing, the walls come down. And now it's open to communicate, and you follow what you were taught, which is introduce your topic. Number one, talk about what you want from that topic. Number two, and if they ask for more, then go into detail of why you believe that topic is viable. And you will be surprised that the skills you're getting. I kind of took it for granted, I think. I never realized how important, as you pointed out, that Pat, the idea that Ann really, she made, she taught us some really powerful stuff that
Truly.
I guess I just kind of was like, well, of course that's what you do. But I've seen a lot of people that, like you said, don't have that skill. So good question, and you're on the right path.
Thank you. I really appreciate the answers.
Absolutely.
And I will just add a tiny little something. I am so happy you answered also the channel question, because it's literally one of my questions is, what would you recommend to this generation that have access to so many channels of communication? But I'm amazed to hear and very happy to hear that nothing beats face-to-face. And I think after the pandemic, we should be appreciative of this even more. Further questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
I know that you guys mentioned about basically going for, especially in these entry-level jobs within the media industry. How did you know when to move on? I guess to not be stuck in these entry-level positions, to especially in the media industry. I know it can be kind of cutthroat and basically you have to take a chance when you can. So how did you know when to basically move on to something else or move on to another company, I guess?
Great question. And I guess I would say, you feel it in your heart when you feel like you're not, understand that the industry, and I've been in the media industry my entire life. I'm sure that every other industry has the same kind of vibe about it. Yes, there is some cutthroat. Initially people will always test you to kind of find out how much you know. And to kind of put you in the food chain where they think you should stand. When you come up from the bottom, I guess I would say, never be afraid to ask questions when you're working your way up. Never be afraid to ask for what you want. Be prepared that you'll probably get a no, or you may get a no if you ask for something. There's nothing wrong with that. And then also don't be afraid to communicate with people that are way above your pay grade. There's no reason you shouldn't be known by the president of the company. If he's passing in the hallways, things like that. Again, communication skills, introducing yourself, saying, hi, I'm this person, I'm that, really will help you solidify something within a company for sure. As far as when you're ready to move on, I guess I you kind of start to feel signals, either they're done with you and waiting for you to quit. I haven't necessarily run into totally that kind of experience on those, but you might start to feel used or want to be like, look, I really want to, expand. And the thing to do is, I would suggest go to your boss at the time and say, hey, I really would like to find more opportunity up this level. Can you guide me? And if they tell you, look, there's no opening that I can do here that gets you to where you want to be, that's when you can say, okay, well, I need to start, looking around. So it's, I don't know if that answers your question, does it? Okay.
Yeah, and I just, Jennifer, I'd just echo what Jim said, that even if you go outside of the media world and you're just in a general business, like in my experience, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So to echo what Jim said, you got to ask, and no is an okay answer, because you don't always get a yes. But as my dad always told me, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So that's part of that go for it, right? The other thing is, and to just kind of build on something Jim said, but as far as knowing the president of the company, seek out mentors wherever you are. And I got to tell you, one of my mentors early on became the president of the company I was with, and continued to be my mentor throughout my career till that company was acquired and we both moved on. And he's still a mentor to this day. So seek out people that have knowledge, because people don't hand you things. You're rarely going to get somebody who's going to tap you on the shoulder and go, I want to be your mentor, right? So you've got to seek them out, and you've got to seek people that you are engaged with, that you have a connection with, and maximize that. So, to me, the underlying theme is you control your own destiny no matter where you are. It's your decision of whether or not you want to continue. And one of the things I've always used to gauge where I'm at is, am I happy? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? If I'm miserable and I don't like the people I'm working with, well, that's probably a pretty good indication that you need to start looking for something else, because there's a difference between that and it's hard work, right? And it's difficult. There's a difference between that. Difficult work is actually not bad if you're having fun and you're enjoying what you're doing, right? If you're miserable, this is the world according to Pat, right? Life is too short to be miserable. So pursue what you want, what will make you happy, and good things will come. And I'll tell you that in my experience, that's a truism.
Right. I would just add to that a little bit, the power of yes. Say yes when people, offer you things that may sound scary, but, you're not quite ready for. But, I would highly recommend you step in. And, that happened to me when I did my first movie. I was very confident in television shows, but, a 90-minute movie was somewhat different and a different animal. And, I stubbed my toe a couple times and things like that, but you get in there and, all of a sudden I can say, hey, I produced 3 movies now. Okay, that works. So just that kind of thing, will come. Also to the idea of, asking or calling out the elephant in the room, I guess, if you're in a company where you see something and you're like, I really would love to do that, or asking for opportunity. There's a defining line, like Pat said, between, when I think of the people that have worked for me and who's there, there's the group that will complain and be like, I don't like this, but they don't offer a solution. And what you don't realize is that so much of our businesses at all times, no matter what it is all about solving your client's problems, whether it's a broadcaster, it's this or whatever. They're there, you're getting paid to solve their issue. And sometimes the guy that's way above you doesn't have the answer. And it's just creative minds and young minds like you who weren't raised in that box, who might be like, I think I might know an idea. What if we did this? And so what I guess I would say is, if you see something that is wrong about a company, that makes you uncomfortable, that makes you feel like you should move on because it's not doing things you love, there's nothing wrong with going to someone and saying, what if we did this? that's where you all of a sudden are recognized and people go, whoa, she's way below her pay grade. We need to move her up here. And that's how things happen like that. So,
Yep.
Hi, I have a question. So what are some warning signs in both of your experience from a company that you should stay away from? So like, what are some red flags if you see in like a job post or like in an environment that are probably like a red flag that you shouldn't work there, if that makes sense?
good question. Pat, I mean, I've got a couple in mind in my business, but
I guess for me, it's one of the key things for me and it follows some of the themes we've been talking about, is allowing you, fail is too strong of a word, but allowing you to push the envelope and have an entrepreneurial spirit. I've been lucky in that I've always worked for companies that have really pushed that. They want people who think on their own. They want people who push that entrepreneurial spirit throughout the company. I've never been one that fits into a nice, neat box. So being too structured was always something I tried to avoid. I worked for a company for a few years that was nothing against accountants, but it was run by accountants, and I was kind of the token liberal arts major in the company, and I didn't enjoy myself because it was just, thinking outside the box just was not, it was black or white. There was no gray. And I just didn't enjoy operating in that space. So identifying, I guess, so long-winded answer is identifying within yourself what helps you tick and looking for a company that has a like-minded approach to things. Like I'm loving life in the tech world because they're like, let's go, man. Let's do something, even if it's wrong. Let's push, and we can adjust if we need to, but let's keep the momentum going. Go. Think outside the box, be innovative, be creative. I love that. That's a great environment to be in. So I guess think about how you operate, what makes you happy, and look for like-minded people. Jim? Yeah.
I would say, and kind of as far as like warning signs and things, I don't know if there are particular. I would say, if you're thinking about, well, do I not want to work with them because it's an unhealthy place, or it's that's kind of hard to judge until you really get to know the people within. But you could certainly look around, and see, and your gut's going to tell you, is this too sterile for me? Is this too? It's not fun, or does it seem happy? I'd say some things to be aware of is there are kind of two paths I think that a lot of people do, and when you first get out of college or when you're in college, I hunted around for anything I could find, and that's totally fine. Started with some small companies too and looking for things. And the great thing about, I think when I was in LA before I got hired by ABC, I did a couple jobs for freelance for some trailer companies that were very small. And I think one of them I never got paid for or anything like that, just because that's the kind of, when you're in the small microcosm company, that's where you're not sure they're financially healthy and they're just trying to get started. There's a value to going with a small company if you find the right one, and that is the path up is quick, because there's usually a faster attrition, and there's usually small companies, you're doing everything. So you might be a writer, but before you could be running a camera, doing all these other things too, because that's just the way they tick. That's valuable. And then there's also the other path that once you land at a big company, the path up is much slower, a little more grueling, but the cachet that brings you down the road after you do 4 or 5 years at that kind of thing brings you a lot, because now you can go to the upstarts, like, coming from Disney, for instance. If I go and take a meeting at Netflix, when the Netflix first got started, they were like, oh, he's from Disney. So, because they were little, and they were like, so you brought the cachet, so those are kinds of things that will be of value in your course. But I would also say, you can never plan your career out perfectly. I would have never, I just can't tell you. I am always like, I see it. It's the success is right there. Never happens that way. It's always out of the blue, weird phone call from somebody. And you're like, oh, and suddenly you're over there. But it will, your gut will tell you, and just say yes a lot.
Yeah, right.
So I had a question. To begin, I just wanted to say thank you so much for meeting with my class today. I've really appreciated hearing the advice that you've given. And to lead into my question, with graduation coming up in a few weeks, I've been reflecting on my time a lot at CSU. And so I was just wondering, for both of you, what was your favorite experience at CSU?
Besides Fort Ram and college days,
they don't know about college days.
They don't know
anymore.
about those things. I mean, Fort Ram's not there anymore either.
And we spelled it with a Z.
Yeah.
College days.
Sorry, Courtney, we went off the rails there.
It's all good. I've heard college days was amazing. So
yeah, it's banned now.
A few bad apples.
Yeah. Pat, you want to lead and go?
Yeah. I mean, I look back on my college experience just with nothing but fond memories. I really didn't. It's hard for me to pick out. I was involved in a lot of different things, from working within the major and the school part of things to, I played rugby for CSU. Was going to wrestle for them, but they ended the program, so I switched over to rugby. But made lifelong friends there, and between that and finding my way into the comm department was, because when I came in as a general studies major, I had no idea what I wanted to do with life. I had been accepted to University of Iowa and University of Colorado as a business major, and I just decided I don't know, for whatever reason, I decided to go to CSU. I was called there, and as a general studies guy, and I struggled my first year. And then I found communication, and I found Denny and Dr. Mack and Ann and all the professors that were there, and it was like a big family. And I knew as soon as I declared that major, and I found my home. So one experience, God, I really can't tell you. It was just a great experience overall. I loved it, which is why I'm here today, because I feel so strongly about what CSU gave me that, hey, even though our football team lost every game our senior year, we are still having allegiance.
There's a lot of stuff. At least you guys have a new stadium.
Right. Hey, so anyway, that's,
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would say same. I mean, college is that time where it's very special, I think, and I hope everybody sees it that way. It really was something that I look very fond upon. The thing I think that I got from CSU more than anything, which has helped me time and time again, was I guess I like to say CSU turns out scrappy. And I don't mean that as a connotative term. I mean that as it turns out fighters. Yeah. Too often I run into people in our industry who went to the majors, the NYUs, the USCs, the film schools, that are out there that are prestigious, and they are relying heavily on their contacts of my dad's dad knows your dad's dad, and you're going to get me a job on your show. And that tends to work for them for 1 or 2 seasons, but generally the lack of true, what I say, scrappiness is what catches up. And that's what I guess I would say time and time again. I see CSU students, and I know they're fighters, and they will get it done. And 8 out of 10 times, they're the ones who are going to get it done and get it right. So that's something you should be really proud of. You're coming out with some cachet in that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering my question.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Thank you very much. It's so inspirational. We have time for literally one last question or comment, because time flies too fast when we have such amazing and inspirational speakers.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
mean,
Yeah,
I
okay.
took notes, so many.
You are so
And I was
sweet.
like, Julia, how many people did you call today about so many other things? Nice. Do we have one more question from the audience? Otherwise, I have one. Yes.
Oh, yeah, sure. Again, thank you guys. Like all of your words are very wise, and I feel like we're all kind of learning from that. And just like with getting out there and trying to network, like my parents have told me that that's so crucial and important because
It is.
it's not always what you know, it's who you know. So
Right.
but in the sense of grad school and I mean, because I'm still a freshman, so I'm just kind of planning like my path. And when I'm thinking about graduation school, is it something that's gonna end up being worth it, or should I kind of start like internships and getting out there and trying to develop like myself in a way that is off from school, or do they kind of go hand in hand?
What do you want to do? What are you aiming for? What's your dream, your passion?
Well, I guess I started in communication studies and then started kind of going into relational and organizational studies, and I'll start taking classes on rhetoric and learning more about persuasion. I guess in marketing, in hopefully an inner working job in businesses, and potentially being someone who can manage and I guess control, or not control, but try and develop a company in the way that would be most fit for hopefully something in sustainability. But yeah, I also could totally change that. So, but that's kind of the site right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I get, as you go through college, you'll find some things probably too that you're like, okay, I like that direction more. So totally understand. When I hear you say marketing and executive marketing, that is a value to have an MBA in marketing or something like that. If you want to go to a big company, at least in my opinion, like a Comcast or people like that, they're hiring people, you know, they look for people with degrees from Wharton, you know, MBAs from those kinds of situations. You know, if you're looking to get into my side of the business and things like that, absolutely do not. That's you want to get internships and get hands-on right away. That's where the most value is. So it's kind of deciding where you want to be in that path, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I'm a huge believer in continuing education. Now, I personally never went back and got my MBA. Thought about it multiple times, but just never got around to doing it. And the career's done just fine. Thank you very much. But I've also got, you know, multiple alphabet soup after my name of different designations and stuff because I believe in continuing ed. So I wanted to learn as much as I could about the industry I'm in. And with that typically comes, you know, you'll complete a course series of, you know, a 5-course series over a few years, and you'll get, you know, certified insurance counselor after your name, SCIC, or associate in risk management, or transportation risk specialist, or whatever, you know, CPCU or whatever. So a lot of it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, what industry you're going to be going in, because different industries put a different value on that MBA. Jim was spot on that some companies, if you don't have an MBA, you're not going to get a sniff because you're competing against, you know, people who have an MBA from Wharton, you know. So a lot of it depends. You're a freshman, you've got plenty of time to figure that out, but that ties back to the networking and the seeking out the advice from people like Jim and I, people like your instructors, your professors, and you know, your parents and their friends, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and ask questions, because that will help guide you as you start focusing in on your path. And again, remember, your path is not set in stone, no matter how long you're doing it. You can always divert. Just because you're going down a path, never feel stuck. And sometimes an advanced degree helps you do that. So, you know, as you can tell, there's no one answer, right? There's no correct answer there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys so much.
Sure. Good luck. You're going to do well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for joining us today. Thank you for absolutely kind of amazing pieces of advice that I'm sure that all of us can only benefit from this now and in the future. And thank you for inspiring us. It's some confusing times, some multiple levels, and you helped also deconstruct a lot of anxieties and answer a lot of questions. So it was amazing. Thank you.